everyone, Anna here, your non-toxic health coach, your guide for the clean organic living community. Welcome. Thank you for being here with me. If you've been a part of a clean organic living group, you guys know that we're so passionate about helping families make educated, truly informed choices, whether it's products or food. And that means going beyond the greenwashing, going beyond marketing, beyond labels, and really understanding where our products and our foods come from. So in today's conversation, and this is the one I've been looking forward to for a while, we're going to pull back the curtain on something that many people assume is safe, and that is organic meats. So the truth is that just because it says organic or humanely raised or grass-fed or many other of those catchy phrases, it doesn't always mean what you think it does. I'm here today with someone who does things differently. And we're talking with the owner of Reber Farm, a farm that sets the bar for what is truly clean, ethical, and nutrient dense look like. So this is a place I've actually had a chance to and the privilege to visit the farm myself. And it's truly a place where animals are respected. The process is transparent. I was able to see the whole process from the beginning to end, if you will, because the meats are also processed on site. And the animals are raised with integrity from start to finish. So in this conversation with Nathan, who is the owner and operator of Reber, we are going to talk about what's really going on in the meat industry, even inside of the organic label, because he can tell us his perspective. His farm is certified organic, so he's got the insider scoop. We're going to be talking about the shocking loopholes and misleading claims that most people have never even heard of. So be prepared to learn something new for sure. And then what it actually takes to raise animals in a way that support our health and conscience and are good for the environment. So by the end of this conversation, I think you'll walk away feeling empowered. You would really get more information and feel more connected when you know better. Then you can do better, right? It's all about learning. Healthy living is a journey, as I always remind you in the group. And the better you know, the better you do, the better you are. So let's dive in. Nathan, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to start just by asking you to share a little bit about yourself and your farm.
Anna, thanks so much for having me. It's great to see you and great to be here. And I was just remembering when we met you for the first time, when you guys were on vacation up in Lake Placid, and you said, "Hey, can we swing by?" And you guys came out. We buzzed out and saw the chickens and the cows and stuff. And
It was the
uh,
best time. The kids had so much time. Thank you for welcoming us. I
yeah,
always vet the farm, so this was just such a great vacation trip because you
yeah,
are 4 or 5 hours away from where I am, but still the best I could find. You guys are the best.
yeah,
So, all right.
yeah.
Tell
So
us.
great to see you. Tell me that phrase. The no. There was a knowing phrase you have. I just love
Yeah,
that.
it's know better, do better, and then be better. Those are the three
Absolutely.
betters to focus on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's our theme right there for our conversation. Knowing as a consumer of any food, any product is just such a powerful um, foundation for making choices. So yeah, my name's Nathan. Thrilled and honored to be here. My wife Racy and I own and operate Reber Rock Farm here in Essex, New York. It's a beautiful farm in the Adirondacks, right on Lake Champlain. We are a certified organic farm, and we produce beef, pork, and chicken. We also collaborate with a couple of other neighbors and friends to bring in grass-fed lamb, pasture-raised organic turkey, and things like that. We've been in operation since we got on the land in 2012, and we sort of started the business in the beginning of 2013. So going on over a decade, we raised our two kids in the house we built on the farm that we're actively working on, and really grateful at all the opportunities that that presents for
Yeah,
our life.
you have a beautiful place. My kids still remember playing with your dog. He was so gentle with those
Yeah.
chickens and the best herd dog ever.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so I guess the biggest question that everyone wants to know as far as this community is concerned, what do most consumers, you think, misunderstand about the label organic when it comes to meat, right? So there's a whole different conversation to be had about produce, about products, but when it comes to meat and you being a certified organic farm, the organic label, how much weight does it actually carry? And what's the range difference between the different farms? You as organic as opposed to, I don't know, Costco
Yeah.
organic or
Yeah,
any
totally.
supermarket organic. What's the range here that we're talking about?
Oh, it's a great question, Anna. I'll say I'll break it into two parts. There's like, what does organic mean to us, and why are we organic? And and then like, what's the range of the products you can find? And we experience this every year because we are certified organic. So we have a inspector that comes every year, and we have an application that we have to fill out. And it's very clear that as a chicken and a pork and a beef producer, that the way the organic regulations are built, they don't have any idea what a farm like ours is doing. So, for example, and I'll break it into it's 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 relative to the species that you're dealing with. So, whereas vegetables is pretty simple, like the organic implications across most vegetable crops is pretty similar. But chicken has different rules. There's a whole section on chicken, and then there's a whole section that I'm talking about the National Organic Standards, right? It's a
Right.
document. So chicken, for example, if you go into Whole Foods and or whatever your supermarket of choice is, you will find organic chicken, most likely. And the labels try really hard to show these green pastures and these green fields and these beautiful sunshine. And the reality is that organic certification only requires a essentially like a door, like a little cat door and a little run that is outdoor access. So there's nothing in the organic standards that says your chickens have to be on pasture. They have to have green perennial vegetation. There's nothing in the organic standards that says that that's required. And in my personal opinion, I think the organic labels that you find in the supermarket really lean hard on the customer assumption that these chickens were raised in the best possible circumstances because it's organic.
I
So what
completely
organic does
understand.
mean for chicken is it does mean they were fed organic grain, right? So we do know how that grain was raised, more or less. We do
Mhm.
know there was no synthetic pesticides, no fertilizers. It's been tested, right? There's no residues on their feed. That we know because that's cut and dry. We know they were not fed any antibiotics, any hormones, right? That's all regulated and prohibited under organic certification. So there's some important check boxes there. But as far as how how
The
the
quality
animals
of life of the animal,
how the
right?
animals are raised, there's not a whole lot that the organic standards tell the farmer what they can and can't do. And
Yeah.
what that means is the cheapest way to produce these chickens is to put 20, 30,000 of them in a barn, right?
Mhm.
Have ventilation, have lighting, and sure, there's a door in the corner with a little run that no chickens ever use because it's warmer inside the barn.
Mhm.
Um, and I would guess if you and I were sitting in an organic chicken barn and we went next door and went into a conventional chicken barn, you couldn't tell the difference.
You
I
couldn't
probably
tell the
couldn't tell the
difference.
difference,
Yep. I'll
right?
tell you, one of the reasons I started actually the buying club locally is because of chicken, because I was diving into 8 years ago, I was diving into just finding the best protein, source of protein for my family. And as I was doing the research, I could not believe how little regulation within even the organic label. And when I was buying that chicken, it just felt, you know how sometimes you are Well, you don't know because you have access to the best
I'm
possible.
lucky.
But if you're cooking, I'm talking to the viewers and the members of the group. When you're cooking meat, right? There's just so much water all of a sudden coming out from the like the chicken breast, or like the color is just pale, or like the texture is just so weird, like it's stringy almost. There are all these things that can happen even like within the organic certification, that like those chlorine baths are allowed, right? Like the injection to make the meat juicier is allowed, vaccinations are allowed, all sorts of things are allowed, that a person who is specifically trying to source the best meat by purchasing organic does not want anywhere near their meat.
Right.
So, yeah, I was just shocked. It was absolutely shocking to me. The pictures, the videos of, and the farms that I even visited when I was interviewing different farms before I found you guys with organic certifications, where literally, like you were saying, there's a door and it's an access door and it's closed. There is, or they're supposed to have, like you said, ventilation and access to air, right? It has to be there's
Right.
like a vent up on top with like little tiny windows. What is even happening? So I did not see the difference between inorganic and organic. I get it's only in the feed, right? And then antibiotics and hormones. But then within the non-organic label, it's hormones and antibiotics are also limited. So really, we're talking about just the feed primarily, right? But not the quality of life. And quality of life of the animal, those chickens, when they're cramped, they're like on top of each other. Most of them have their beaks broken, right? Because they, oh, I can't even go into like I'm gonna have flashbacks seeing all these things.
Yeah. Yes. It's
It's
it's it's crazy.
it's brutal.
Their primary goal, the big thing is the grain. When I think about why are we organic, it's it's to help clarify the things that we do. There are lots of small farms out there who raise chickens on pasture. And that's a huge quality of life. That's a huge health improvement for the animals as well as the consumer, right? That you get healthier animals, you get healthier meat. And so for organic, it's really about what what are the inputs we need to bring onto our farm that make a difference. So when you compare the barn of the conventional organic and the conventional, right? The inputs are different. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the only difference. And so when I think about, well, why did we choose to be organic? It's because we're both considering our inputs. Where does our feed come from? Where does our bedding come from? Right? Where does our packaging come from? And how are we doing things on our farm? So they're on pasture, right? Of course, no antibiotics, no hormones and things like that. But the quality of life that we get to steward on our farm is also a huge piece. And there's not labels for that, right? That comes back to this know better piece, right? How are
Mm-hmm.
you going to know? You know your farmer.
Yeah.
Have their phone number, right? Call them. Hey, what do you do when a chicken gets
Ask
sick?
questions, ask
That's a
questions, right? And I always tell my
absolutely.
people, well, how do you know? You reach out. But what if they don't tell you? If they don't tell you, A, they either have something to hide, B, they're not proud of the way they're doing it. If
Absolutely.
a farmer, a company, a brand is proud about how they're doing things, they will be transparent with you. When we
Absolutely.
visited your farm, I was blown away. I'm like, oh my God, those chickens, they have the best life ever. Like there's like wildflowers, they're running around, tall grass, and they're heritage chickens. You don't raise just meat chickens because there's meat chickens. They're like this special breed with the brown feathers and looking all cute.
All the
In
things.
essence, they have the best life except the one day, right? But they serve their purpose and you raise meats with integrity. I want to go back for 1 second and just talk about labeling a little more. So, certified
Oh,
organic, we've established really just the grain. Can
yeah.
we talk about the next popular one right now that is pastured? How is that regulated? Or free
Mm,
range? Can you talk us through that? I
mm.
know the answer, but I'd love for you to tell the viewers.
Well, there's so many. I'll make a distinction. Let's distinguish between words that have a definition. Now, organic has a definition and it also has a certifying body behind it. But there are lots of words like free range, like cage free, which have a definition, and all that the producer has to do is write a piece of paper and say, I do this. So there's nobody
Coming
double
out
checking.
and confirming and doing the research.
You
Okay.
still got to submit a piece of paper and say, yes, I do this. So uh, free range is a great one. Free range is essentially saying what the organic chickens already have, which is there's a door. It's optional. And it goes outside
Good
in
luck
some,
finding it in the stadium field
yes,
contraption. Yep.
yes. So free range means there's the option to go out a door into the outside. That's that's what that often means. It can be construed a little bit in comparison to cage free, which means that, and this is usually for laying animals, so laying hens. A caged laying hen has a battery cage, which is a cage that keeps them confined, so they can't interact with other chickens because under stressful situations they'll cannibalize each other and they hurt each other. So free range can also mean just they don't have the cage; they have the ability to run around in a barn.
Just
So
topple each other over. Yeah, so
it,
there's this brand called Vital Farms. I don't know if they're available
oh yeah.
in all the different
They're
parts
they're
of the
actually
country.
subject to a class action lawsuit right now for false
Exactly.
claim.
Exactly, for false claims because literally the those free range chickens or the cage free eggs that they're advertising and they're saying certified humanely raised. How's that even possible? All those chickens have been mutilized because their beaks are broken off. It is terrible. It's the opposite of humane. So
Yeah.
that's another label I wanted to ask you about. What does it take to be a humane certified when you can end up with a class action lawsuit for completely false advertising as part of your business?
That's a good. We I don't know all the different ins and outs of that. I don't know what it takes to I don't even know if humanely raised is a thing. We have an organization around here that's certified animal welfare approved. So I think that's just an independent company that will give you an audit and do those things. So that's a something. But as far as I know, like humanely raised isn't a regulated term.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what my research turned up also, but it's definitely catchy. It's
it's definitely
definitely a
catchy.
type of greenwashing tactic
Yeah,
because wouldn't you want the animals you consume to be humanely raised? Doesn't that sound good? Right? It
yeah.
definitely has that positive feeling attached to it. So, humanely raised, cage free, pastured, free range literally means nothing. Bunch of loopholes. And then for meat, you have this grass finished. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, grass finished. Well, I would say if we get into the grass world, we have to clarify that what we're talking about are ruminants, so grazing animals. So chickens and pigs will never be grass finished
Mm-hmm.
because of how their digestion works, right? Just like you and I couldn't survive just eating grass. We would starve. We
Right.
need nuts and
They're
seeds.
omnivores. They definitely need supplementation. I get that. But there's the grass fed, right?
Yes,
So how
yes.
long does the animal actually, does it mean that the animal is grazing on beautiful green pastures year round? Is that, I
If
mean,
we're
ideally.
that's a great question. If we're talking about definitions, I think the definition comes down to who's defining it. Now, our organic certifying body, for example, NOFA, New York, Northeast Organic Farming Association, it's the organization that comes to us and says, "Yep, you're organic." They have an add-on which is grass-fed. So they define it as ruminants that are fed exclusively forage-based diets. So what does forage mean? It means plants that have leafy growth.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of course you got to define it somewhere, but they're
Right.
essentially shooting for it like it's a grass. Now there's
Mm-hmm.
some grasses which you plant in the spring and they grow up. Barley, wheat, rye, those are grasses. So you could grow those and cut them when they're still grassy, green, as opposed to when they've produced a grain, a seed head. So grass fed means the same thing as grass fed, grass finished. Means it means their whole life.
for the smaller USDA organic, oh, not USDA organic, for the organic certification for the
I'm saying
Northeast
just
that you were
one
talking about.
organization that has
Exactly.
one definition,
Yeah.
right?
If you
That
look at the
someone else could
broad
take
one,
it. I mean, yeah, you go to the supermarket and it might say
the
grass fed.
USDA one,
Who knows what that means?
so yeah, I was actually looking it up and hay, like the animal could literally be in the stall most of its life and just being fed hay.
Right.
It may never see the day's light or pasture, but it's
Right.
grass fed because it's eating grass. And then also USDA organic certification and the grass fed label overall allows for the animal
And they're
to
not the
be
same.
not
Grass
the
fed,
same.
organic, not the same.
Exactly. Completely different. So when you are buying, let's say, meat in Whole Foods at $35 a pound, some crazy, I don't even know what cut steak, like basic sirloin, 35 bucks a pound because it's grass fed and it's not organic, right? So there is no additional insurances of the that come with organic certification.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
don't know if it's grass finished, right? Because grass fed does not mean grass finished. So all it could mean is that at some point of its life, that animal consumed grass, but then
Yeah.
the rest of its life, it could have been eating GMO corn for all you
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
Am I
It,
correct in
it's
understanding
it's
that?
like you said, it comes down to knowing better, right? The best question to ask is, hey, you grow my beef. What do you feed your cows? What does grass fed mean to you? Why is
Yeah,
it important to you?
yeah. I agree. And then when I was looking for the meats for the club, I dove in even further. And then some farmers were saying, oh, we grass feed on pastures and we grass finish. In the winter, they eat hay. And then my next question was, well, do you grow your own hay? And then
Hmm.
if the answer was no, well, where do you get it? And does the supplier treat it with pesticides, insecticides, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have organic certification. They're just a local farm saying grass fed, grass finished. And that's where a lot of times the conversation would fall apart because, oops, all of a sudden this animal is consuming some unsavory chemicals through that
Yeah.
finishing of the hay. So, all these things. So, Nathan, tell me another question for you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite trendy, greenwashed term right now that when it
Mm.
comes to meats
Mm.
and chickens?
Mm. I'll use the word favorite loosely here.
I
Uh,
know. That's why I said like quotation marks.
my favorite is regenerative,
Regenerative farming.
or maybe sustainable. Either
Sustainable. It's a
sustainable or
toss.
regenerative. Stop.
I
It's
know.
a toss up.
When regenerative first came out, and me being, a seasoned health coach and an ingredient expert, I have to admit that I was like, this sounds amazing. I was like, I want regenerative farming. So for a good few months before I actually dove into it, I was all about regenerative.
Yeah.
So do tell us.
Yeah. Well, I'll say again, it's not a regulated term. And there are certainly people out there who call themselves regenerative who are doing the best they can.
Mhm.
So, I mean no ill will against other farmers out there trying to market their brand. And at the same time, knowing people and watching brands that use the word regenerative, sustainable. For example, just to use our example, we raise chickens and they're pasture raised and they're organic. And there are other companies out there who sell regenerative chicken and they're claiming to go beyond organic, but they buy conventional grain. So they're claiming to be regenerative because of how their practices are on their farm. Um, but in my opinion, regenerative looks beyond the borders of your property, right? It looks at like, okay, how's the farmer that's growing this grain? What about where's my fertilizer coming from? And how is that produced? And so to me, regenerative calls up this sort of holistic picture of how is the whole of what I'm producing look like, and that's where I get frustrated as I look deeper into what what a regenerative claim looks like. is a lot of times it's actually very myopic. It's just looking at, hey, I do this one thing, like my cattle graze on grass during the winter, during the summer, right? My chickens are on pasture in July, and that makes me regenerative. And I'd love to see that perspective broaden to a more
Yeah.
holistic perspective.
I hear you. I completely agree with you because it's such a catchy term, but without really fully understanding and knowing your farmer and what it is they're doing, it's not, you can't just get one piece of it right. You can't just do organic grain and call it a day,
Yeah,
right? You can't
yeah,
just rotate pastures and call yourself regenerative, call it a day while your chickens are supplementing with soy that's GMO and hormones or whatever else, right?
right,
So
right.
it has to be, like you said, a holistic approach. And in this group, we are looking at a holistic, full body
Yeah,
environment. It has to be approached from all different angles to achieve the desired result. So tell us, chicken is one of my favorite products on your farm. I am obsessed. Reber
thank you, thank
chicken
you.
is all we eat. I love, love, love it. I love to be able to source it to the club. By the way, I'm working on a special offer for the rest of the community. You guys ship. I'm so excited that Reber
Yeah,
can ship. And everything is done on the farm from raising the chickens to processing. So could you
yes,
talk us through um, the chicken process, right?
yeah,
So the chickens are hatched, they're on the farm. What happens next until
yeah.
it's on my plate or
Fun.
rather in my home?
So we pick up the chicks, we bring them home. We have a warm area that we call the brooder. So their first days are not on pasture because they're a newborn chick. They need an ambient temperature of like 90, 95 degrees. And we live in the Adirondacks. That's like, that doesn't
Yeah,
ever happen.
never happens.
And so this is typical, I would say, of all pasture-raised operations, right? We still need between 2 and 3 weeks of temperature regulation, kind of like we're the mama hen, right?
Yeah.
We're bringing them into the fold, so they are in what we call the brooder, where they've got heat, they've got water. When we bring them in, they get a water mix of apple cider vinegar, organic apple cider vinegar, and organic sugar. So they get like a little electrolyte boost. And on our farm, they spend a little under 3 weeks in that brooder area. And then they're feathered out and they're ready to go to the field. Um, so then we gather them up and we bring them out to one of our field coops, I'll call it. They have lots of different fun technical names, but it kind of looks like a hoop house on a metal frame. So the floor is always open to the pasture, but they've got shade and wind protection. We've got some roll down sides, so if it's like nasty, we can roll them down. If it's really hot, we roll them up. And in there, they've got all access to feed and water. And so every day, as you saw, we come out with our dog, Susu, and we hook to these things with a tractor and we pull them forward one length. So they've always got fresh grass
Yeah,
every day of the
I could
project.
not believe it because when we got there it was already late in the afternoon and the grass was like this long for those chickens. And we've raised our own chickens and had layer chickens for a while. And I know in 2 days, the chickens can destroy your
Yeah,
yard and your
yeah,
grass. So how much it's so labor intensive to be moving these huge, big like things, right? Trailers or whatever you can
yeah,
call them. It's so labor intensive, but it's clearly worth it. Chickens are super happy and there's so much
yeah,
room for them to run around and just pasture.
yes. It's certainly more labor intensive than having 20,000 in a barn. So yes, it's more
For
labor intensive
sure.
than that.
Yeah.
And there's some real health benefits, right? We see we're an organic farm, but we have zero health issues because the 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 baseline of health in our flock is so good because they have natural ventilation, they've got sun, they got all that vitamin D, they've got all the probiotics of scratching around in the dirt and the bugs and the, you know, all the animals that came before them that pooped and left fun things around in the pasture.
Yeah.
Um, and just to give you a sense, like we have four big coops in a row. Each one holds about 500. So that's 2,000 birds, right? It would take one person with all the feeding and the watering and the hoses and whatnot. Might take them 2 hours, right?
Hmm.
So it's 2 hours to move 2,000 birds. So, you know, it does take some labor, but as we've gotten to the scale that we're at, I feel pretty proud about how we're able to produce such a different product with such a different quality of life for the animals, and it's not. It feels efficient to me. I'll put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to see. I mean, when we came there, I felt like, that I forget the name of that movie. It'll come to me. But it's just like mountains and valleys and wildflowers and just chickens running. It's just so like picturesque and
Yeah.
idyllic almost. But your farm is huge. It's like close to 200 acres or something like that, right? Your
Yeah, we
operation.
operate on more than we own 131 acres and operate on over 200 here in the
That's
area.
amazing. And you supply to the whole of US nationally, you ship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. UPS is pretty amazing. They can take a box
But
anywhere you
it's
want.
also how well that whole operation, that whole structure within your farm, I gotta give it to you guys because you have it so polished from when the order comes in to even the packaging, everything is deep frozen and comes to you deep frozen. And I just absolutely love the whole logistic bit of it. But let me not interrupt you. The chickens are on those beautiful pastures
Yes,
for how long?
yes. Well, I'll tell you what normally happens on our farm, which is there's 3 weeks in the brooder, and then they go outside for another 6 weeks, and there's 6 weeks on pasture. So it's a
Okay.
total of 9 weeks.
9 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. Now that's much longer than like the chicken you get in the supermarket, which is typically like 42 days. So what's that?
42
21 is
days.
3, right? It's like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So the what I anticipate this year, so all the chicken we have in the freezer right now is those guys. This year it'll probably be closer to 5 weeks on pasture. They'll be a little faster growing. So we move them out to the field. They spend that 5 to 6 weeks on pasture, moving every day, playing in the fields and all that. And then on their last night, we go out when it's dark, so that chickens are kind of blind and asleep during the night. We're able to gently grab them and we put them in transport crates, so we can carry 8 of them at a time, and
So
we
there's
bring
no,
them back.
before like we go into too much detail because some
Yeah.
people may turn vegetarian after this. You don't need
Okay.
to go into so much
Got it.
detail, but I've studied your process and
Yeah.
it is as humane as it gets
That
because
is
there's
absolutely
no
our goal.
conveyor belts. There is none of that horror that the animal experiences. There is none of that. There is none
Yeah.
of that horror that the animal experiences when they watch their
Yeah.
mate, not mates, but their not peers, flock.
Yeah.
Well, like, what is
Yeah.
the word I'm looking for chickens? Go through the processing. So it is super humane. You do it right on site. There is
Yes.
no minimal stress to the animal. And that was very important for me
We have a
selecting a
saying
farm.
we have a saying on their last day, which is if you can hear the chicken, right, we need to think about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And if you think about what happens when you grab a chicken and it's stressed, it's it squawks, right?
Yeah.
So our the whole process is is attuned to listening to the feedback of the animal itself, right? So if we're doing something that's causing stress for the animal, that's an area we need to work on. So all the way through our processing, we're really honing in on reducing the stress experience, eliminating the stress experience of the animal.
Yeah. I will tell you that as I was learning more and more about how the meat is raised when I was doing the research for the club, one thing that I started with, and I feel like that most of our members and viewers will can relate to when we think about organic certification or just meat in general, we're just thinking about how this meat is raised. Like what has this animal been eating? How, what is it doing? You're not thinking about, well, what happens after? What happens after that
Mm,
meat has been raised, right?
yeah.
How is it being processed? How is it getting to the processor? It's
Yeah,
still very important part that's going to directly influence the quality of your meat, the nutrients in your meat, the hormones in your meat. All of those things are going to be directly influencing what you're consuming.
absolutely.
So that's a big aspect that no one thinks about. So having to not doing, putting them in the trucks and loading them and sending them off for processing and God knows, what you are actually doing it right on site. It's vertical integration as far as business is concerned.
Yeah,
You are in complete quality control from beginning to end. And that
yeah,
is so, so important. So you process your meats, your
yes,
chickens specifically, as is the focus of this conversation, right on your farm.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
tell
Right,
us a little
right
bit
here.
more about that.
Buildings right there.
I know.
Uh,
I so want to. I took so many videos of the farm and the pictures. I posted some before. I'm gonna do it again just to for you
yeah,
guys to see. It's so so nice. Maybe one day we can do like a mini chat with you showing us when you're out on
sure.
the farm. That'll be
Yeah,
so fun for
it'd be
people
fun.
to see. But when you are processing, right, there is no chlorine baths.
No.
There's no chlorine baths. Everything is disinfected with non-toxic disinfectants.
Yep.
I have seen the facility. I've been in there. Tell us about your chicken on top of it. It's air chilled.
Yeah, I only recently
I
learned
love
this is a
that.
thing. But yes,
It
yes,
makes a huge difference.
it makes a huge difference. I'll say to your point, we've sent our chickens and our pigs and our cows to different processors. And I can tell you that, the best animals we've raised, if they go to a processor where even just the handling is stressful, or the chemicals that they use while they're processing and disinfecting, you can taste the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I can taste when an animal was stressed when it was killed, right? Even though that animal was raised in the best way, right? We raised it ourselves. We did the best we could. That last step is just as important as any other step along the way.
I could not agree more. And this is a big thing that many people do not realize, and it's huge.
Yeah. So for our chickens, and I'm excited to talk about all these things, and we have plans of bringing red meat back in house, but that doesn't happen currently. So the chickens we have, like I said, the chicken lets us know how to have the a completely a stress reduced area, right? Like we have our low stress environment. We use basically we use the same stuff in our butcher shop that we would use in our house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm not comfortable cleaning with it with my kids around, it's not going into the butcher shop. We use instead of bleach, we use what's called peracetic acid, which is hydrogen peroxide and vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
So we call it the hippie pickle. It smells a little bit like pickle, but it does the same thing, right? It cleans our knives, cleans our cutting boards and things like that, just the way bleach would, except that when it ends up in our
Non-toxic. Yeah.
groundwater, it's vinegar and hydrogen peroxide.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I've always known from a quality perspective that we want an air chilled chicken, meaning we have a cooler with a fan in it that cools the carcass down. Otherwise, you get water retention in the meat. But I've only recently learned, like in the supermarket, air chilled is a buzzword.
It
So
is a
yes,
buzzword, yeah, and usually it will add a few dollars to per pound to your chicken just for air chill,
okay,
regardless
there,
of how else it was raised. So that's why I'm saying I was so so excited to find you guys because you have it all. Like my list is this long. The guys in my group know I am a purist. I go beyond. I dive in. I take deep dives. So like to be able to check mark everything, hats off to you. And you guys
uh,
are the unicorn for sure.
now I know I need to advertise that we're air chilled. I didn't even know that was
Listen,
a
so
thing.
many people are looking for that specifically because air chilled chicken really does taste different. The texture is
Yeah, for
different.
sure.
Another big thing for me was that even an organic and USDA organic label allows that bulking of the chicken meat to make it more juicy. So the meat is injected with certain compounds within the USDA organic guidance to make
Sure.
it juicy, right? So then when you get that meat, that's where you see like the meat is draining,
Got
right?
it.
And then you end up paying extra per pound. You
Keep
think it
paying
may
for
be a little
water.
less
Yeah,
expensive. You're paying
absolutely.
for, this disinfectant water or whatever they
Yeah.
inject it with. So I'm so happy that none of that is happening at Reber. And I'm
Yeah.
also so excited to be able to offer the discount for our community. That's so generous of you,
Yeah.
Nathan. We're going to have a special link for our group, exclusive only, that you guys will be able to use. I will put that down in the comments and you will be able to taste some of this amazing chicken yourself and let us know your feedback. I know you guys are going to love it just as much as my club does, just as much as my family does. What's free shipping? You guys, some of the
Yeah, great
US
question.
gets shipped for free at 189, I think. That's what my
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I remember. So 189 for most of Northeast and
East of the Mississippi.
east of the Mississippi. Okay.
Basically, if we can get you in our ground, UPS ground radius, we can offer free shipping. If
You
we have to
guys
put
have
it on a
shipped, you
plane.
guys have shipped to like for me to California. It's
Sure.
not free shipping, but
Yes.
it still comes packaged properly. It's still deep
Yes.
frozen. You just have to use air.
We just have to use air and we pass that cost on to the customer.
Yeah.
Uh,
And people do that because there's really, if you're looking for truly pastured, truly organic,
yeah.
truly humane, non-bathed, chlorinated, non-injected chicken, really, where can you find this? There's probably less than a handful. And for you guys to be able to
Yeah.
keep your pricing so reasonable, because clean living, let me tell you, it's not cheap. A lot of things, unfortunately, simpler things, clean, non-toxic things are more expensive, right? It's more expensive to source these ingredients. It's more expensive to produce these products because it's a labor of love. It's more time consuming as well.
Yeah.
So for you guys to be able to keep it reasonable within the price range of similar offerings, I really, really appreciate it. And I know
Yeah.
my members will really appreciate the extra discount to be able to try some of this amazing chicken. Now, tell me, so it's not just chicken. You guys do pork. You
Yes.
do lamb or no lamb?
We offer lamb. We don't raise the lamb. So we have good friends down the road at Essex Farm and Kinderhook Farms and a couple other places here in New York.
My
Uh,
members able to apply the coupon, the
absolutely.
discount to the lamb
Yeah.
as well? It's something they can get on the website. Okay, awesome.
Yes.
And
So
I
the
know beef is
clean coupon's
amazing.
good for just at checkout, right? You can put whatever you want. It can be beef, pork, chicken, lamb,
And you have
uh,
some other goodies. I can't wait to try. You know what I wanted to try? The chicken schmaltz.
chicken schmaltz.
I
Yeah.
love that.
We
That's
make a chicken pate.
chicken
Uh,
pate. I haven't tried
yep,
that yet. But you guys sell also organ meat as well. So like
definitely.
chicken liver, right?
Definitely.
And you said chicken pate, and that's why I remembered because we make our own pate and we get the chicken liver from you guys. So
Yeah.
that's delicious. But if you're not into preparing organ meats, not a lot of people are, you can just buy the pate
Yeah.
directly. I'm sure all ingredients are organic, just to double check.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you have maple syrup, I think, too. I don't know if you
We
guys
have
ship
maple
that.
syrup.
I love
From,
that. We tried the maple syrup last time. It's really good. It's like almost
yeah.
like caramel. Tastes delicious. Yeah, so check them out. So many different offerings on the website. I'm super, super excited to be able to have this conversation with Nathan. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time. Guys, put your questions in the comments. I know there's going to be tons of questions in the comments. I will let Nathan know and he will get back to us with all the answers. I hope we can meet again as the chickens go on pasture from the brooder
Brooder. Yeah. Yeah.
hatchery and broodery. So
Love it.
I'm not, as you can see, I'm not a farmer myself. And we would love to I would love to show you pastures because 5 hour drive for me is a bit much every time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I can also share my own pictures and videos that my family took when we visited.
Yeah.
Thank you
Well,
so much,
thank you.
Nathan,
Thank you so much for having me, Anna. I'm
for the
I'm so grateful to
conversation.
be here. And
Yeah.
I hope, I love your motto of no better. And that's why I'm inspired to be here, right? To answer the questions, to shed some of the light and the insight that we have as a producer of food.
And
Uh, so
it's such an important conversation So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. Say hello to Racy for us, and
All
we'll
right.
see you soon.
Okay. Thanks so
Yeah.
much, Anna.
All right. Bye. Wow, what an eye-opening conversation. I know that many of us here are already reading labels. We are conscious consumers, but this goes to show you that even with organic certification, it's not always what it seems to be. So knowing your farmer, knowing your food source is extremely important. And what I love about Reber Farms is that they're not just checking the boxes or chasing certifications. They're actually doing things right. They're raising these animals the way nature intended. No shortcuts and without greenwashing. And I feel confident using the meats myself, recommending them to the community, my families in my buying club. And I encourage you to support the farmers that are doing things right. We as a community need to vote with our dollars to see the food system that we want to see. And I'm so excited that Ribarak has offered a special promo exclusively for our group, $20 off your first order. You can use the code CLEAN, and I'll drop the links in the comments with the code in the comments, so just easily accessible. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered. Be well.